Right, hi everyone, and welcome to the Diesel Arsenal channel. I hope you guys are all well and having a great day. And thanks for joining me this evening. And this is my latest venture into the world of the paranormal and conspiracy theories and the such like. And tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about the Madeleine McCann mystery. Um, so yeah, we're going to go into that and have a look at that. And first of all, we've got one person in the chat already, and that's my mate Darren. I hope you're well, Darren. Thanks very much for coming in. And Joanne's here as well. She's going, "Hello, Warren, my lovelies. Nice to see you, Joanne. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a great evening and keeping yourself warm and dry and everything else. Anyway, so let's get into it. Now, first thing I want to say about this, right, is that I want to point out that everything in this show, everything I'm going to talk about tonight, is information that I found through research that I've done or found through stuff on the internet. And it doesn't necessarily represent my own personal opinions, except where I directly say so. Now, hold on just a second, because this, I want to change the way this is. Hold on. Just 2 secs, because this isn't, I thought this was going to look a bit different to this. Dear, what's going on? Might be a sec, guys. Anyway, I hope everyone's well, and yeah, that's better. Right, okay. So Joanne's saying that she shared it out and liked. Thanks very much, Joanne. That's really kind of you. Thank you very much. So let's move on. Right. So what we're going to talk about tonight in this show is who are the McCann family. We're going to talk about as well up to and including the 3rd of May 2007, the early days of the investigation, the McCanns and the media and PR, the first Portuguese inquiry, the British sniffer dogs arrive, Keela and Eddie, and British DNA analysis. And then we're going to talk about Gonçalo Amoral's removal from the case and how the Portuguese case was closed. We're then going to talk about the Madeleine's Fund, and we're going to talk about the private investigators and further police inquiries, the McCanns, the tabloids, social media and libel actions, other theories, and my thoughts. So that's basically what we're going to, in a nutshell, what we're going to be talking about tonight. So this story centers around Madeleine, a little girl by the name of Madeleine Beth McCann. She was born on the 12th of May 2003 in Leicester in the UK. She's a British missing person who disappeared from her bed in a holiday apartment in Praia da Luz, Lagos, and Portugal at the age of 3 years old on the evening of the 3rd of May 2007. Her parents are Kate and Jerry McCann, both of whom are physicians. Now, Kate McCann was born in 1968 in Houghton near Liverpool. I hope I pronounced that properly. She attended All Saints School in Anfield, then Notre Dame High School in Everton Valley. She then went on to attend the University of Dundee and graduated in 1992 with a degree in medicine. She moved briefly into obstetrics and gynecology, and then anesthetics, and finally general practice. Gerald Patrick McCann, there's this gentleman here, was born in 1968 in Glasgow in the United Kingdom. He went to Holyrood Roman Catholic Secondary School before he graduated from the University of Glasgow with a BSc in psychology stroke sports science in 1989. In 1992, he qualified in medicine, and in 2002, he obtained his MD also from Glasgow. So, hold on. Since 2005, he has been a consultant cardiologist at Glenfield Hospital in Leicester, and in 2003, Madeleine was born, and then in 2005, they had twins, a boy and a girl. And Jerry and Kate McCann have had 3 children: Madeleine, who was approaching 4 years old when she disappeared, and a pair of twins, a boy called Sean and a girl called Amelie. Now, the McCanns arrived in Praia da Luz, a village in Portugal's Algarve region, with a population of 1,000, known as Little Britain, because of the concentration of British homeowners and holidaymakers on the 28th of April 2007 for an 7-night spring break with 7 friends. They rented a ground floor 2-bedroom apartment on ground floor apartment 5A Rua de Agostina da Silva, which was in a block of apartments, and which lay on the edge of the Mark Warner's Ocean Club Resort. The group of friends who had travelled all together all rented apartments which were in close proximity to one another. The apartment that the McCanns had rented was accessible to the public from 2 sides. The apartment had sliding glass patio doors in the living rooms, which overlooked the Ocean Club's pool, tennis courts, tapas restaurant, and bar. The patio doors could be accessed via a public street, Rua de Francisco Gentil Martins, where a small gate and a set of steps led to 5A's balcony and living room. 5A's front door was on the opposite side of the block from the Ocean Club on Rua de Dr. Ostina da Silva. Right. So let's move on. Right. So before we move on, it says, Joe says, I'm good. I'm getting another cat. Oh, dear Joanne. How many do you want? Well, fair play to you that you're giving an animal a home. That's really nice of you. So the events of the 3rd of May 2007, the day that Madeleine McCann disappeared. That's what we're going to talk about now. And then on that day, the following events occurred. During the morning, the McCann children attended the kids club at the Ocean Club Resort, and then the family had lunch together at their apartment before going to the pool. At roughly 3 p.m., the kids returned to the kids club, and at 6 p.m., Kate collected the children from the kids club, and Jerry had a tennis lesson. At 7 p.m., the McCanns put the children to bed before leaving the children alone in the apartment at 8:30 p.m. to have dinner with their friends at the tapas restaurant on the resort. So, oh dear, that didn't happen before, but still, never mind. That's supposed to be a picture of the infamous Tapas 7. The group of friends who the McCanns dined with at the Tapas restaurant went whilst holidaying at the resort have been named the Tapas 7 by the tabloid press. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. But I did check it yesterday, and it was fine. I don't understand why it's gone wrong now, but still, StreamYard for you, I guess. But anyway, the infamous Tapas restaurant was only 55 meters, 180 foot, as the crow flies, from the apartment that the McCanns had rented. But getting from the restaurant to the apartment wasn't so straightforward. Getting from the restaurant to the McCann's apartment involved walking about 82 meters, 295 feet. It wasn't simply a case of walking the same route as the crow flies. It is believed that the top of the apartment was visible from the Tapas restaurant, but not its doors. And whilst at the restaurant, the friends had left their children alone in the apartments that they had rented, and they each took turns to go and check on the children every 30 minutes. Right. So it has been claimed that Jerry McCann made the first check at 9:05 p.m. Sorry, 9:05 5 p.m. and it is alleged that he found the children asleep and he believed that everything was fine. However, he did allegedly claim that he remembered having left the children's bedroom door slightly open, but now it was almost wide open, and so he pulled it back to being only very slightly open again and then returned to the restaurant. It has also been alleged that the patio doors of the McCann's apartment were only lockable from the inside, and so the McCanns left them closed but not locked, and the curtains of the patio doors were pulled close so that apparently they could let themselves in that way when checking on the children. It has been said that the resort staff had left a note in a message book at the swimming pool reception area. Allegedly, the message asked for the table which overlooked the apartments be booked for the McCanns and their friends every evening at 8:30 p.m. for the last 4 days of their stay at the resort. It has also been alleged that the message also mentioned the McCann's group's children were asleep in the apartments they had rented, and it has been said that Kate McCann believed that the abductor may have seen this note. Now, it was alleged that in the early days of the investigation that Jane Tanner, one of the infamous Tapper Seven, saw a man carrying a small child. She apparently had left the restaurant just after 9 p.m. to check on her own daughter, and it is claimed that she had passed Jerry McCann on Rua de Francisco Gentil Martins, a street which is extremely narrow, on his way back to the restaurant from his 9:05 check. But it was alleged that Jerry had stopped to chat with a British holidaymaker, and it was claimed that neither man had recalled having seen Tanner. So let's get into the chat again. And Darren says, "Evening, Warren. Hi, Darren, mate. Hope you're well, mate. It's good chatting to you earlier. And I'm looking forward to watching your evening kickoff later. I'm sure that'll be brilliant." Joe says, "Hello, Darren." And Darren says, "Hello, Joe." Darren says, 7 p.m. is an early time for bed for kids. Well, yeah. It was a claim that Tanner had seen. Hold on, let's go back. It was claimed that Tanner had seen a man carrying a child, but the fact that neither Jerry McCann nor the British holidaymaker that he had stopped and chatted to remembered seeing Tanner confused the Portuguese police and led to them believing that Tanner had made the story up. The Tanner sighting was deemed as important in the early days of the investigation for 2 reasons, which were firstly, because it was felt that the man appeared to be walking towards the home of Robert Murat, a 30-year-old British Portuguese man who lived close to the apartment that the McCanns had rented and who became the case's first suspect. Secondly, because it gave investigators a time frame for the abduction. But Scotland Yard viewed it as a red herring, and in October 2013, they were reported saying that a British holidaymaker was the man that Jane Tanner had seen. It was alleged that this man was returning to his apartment after collecting his daughter from the resort's night crash. Then Madeleine's fund paid for a forensic artist to create an image of the man detailed in Tanner's description, which was released in October 2007. So let's move on. So the Smith sighting. Now, the fact that the Tanner sighting had been ruled out allowed the investigators to focus on a sighting reported by Martin and Mary Smith, who were holidaymakers, and it was felt by Scotland Yard that this sighting offered the approximate time of the abduction. The Smiths reported seeing a man around 10 o'clock on Rua de Escola Primaria, which was 500 yards, 460 meters from the McCann's apartment, carrying a small child or walking away from the resort. In 2008, the EFITs were created by private investigators hired by the McCanns based on the descriptions given by the Smiths, and these were shown by Scotland Yard on the BBC's programme Crime Watch. It is alleged that Kate McCann had intended to check on the children at 9:30 p.m, but Matthew Oldfield, one of the Tappers 7, offered to do the check for her. When he checked on his own children who were in the apartment next door, when carrying out the check, Matthew Oldfield noticed that the McCann's children's bedroom door was wide open, but when he heard no noise, he didn't look far enough into the bedroom to see whether Madeleine was there. It is claimed that he cannot remember whether the children's bedroom window and its exterior shutter were open. In the early days of the investigation, Portuguese police accused Matthew Oldfield of being involved in Madeleine's disappearance because of the fact he had offered to do the check that Kate McCann was planning to do, and they felt it was possible that he had passed Madeleine to someone through the bedroom window. Now, at 10 p.m, Kate McCann made a check of the apartment. And then she apparently entered the apartment through the unlocked patio doors at the back of the apartment. And she noticed that the children's bedroom door was wide open. She noticed that the bedroom window and its shutter were open, and Madeleine's blanket and cuddle cat was still on the bed, but Madeleine was gone. After briefly searching the apartment and being unable to find her, she ran back to the restaurant screaming that Madeleine's gone. Someone's taken her. And at 10:10, it is alleged that Jerry McCann sent Matthew Oldfield to ask the resort's reception to call the police. And at 10:30, the resort activated its missing child search protocol, and then 60 staff and guests searched until 4:30 a.m. the next day. At first it was assumed that Madeleine had just wandered off. Right, so listen, guys, please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't done so already to this wonderful man here on the screen, Diesel from Diesel Arsenal. Please make sure that you put a like on this video for him, because this is Diesel's channel we're watching, where I'm broadcasting this for you tonight, and he's been very kind in allowing me to do this for him. I'll come on here on a ad hoc basis to do these videos about paranormal and conspiracy theories and unexplained phenomena. So it's a big passion of mine, and also for Diesel. So please make sure that you give him support and love, and make sure you put likes on all these videos, the thumbs up button there. And also, like I say, if you're new, make sure that you subscribe. Okay? If you could do that, we'd both be really, really grateful. Also, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is dedicated to the paranormal and the unexplained and conspiracy theories. It's called Unveiling Realities, and there's all the contacts for it there. You can find me on Instagram, also on X, the X platform, and also on Facebook. And I've recently posted up some videos on the Unveiling Realities YouTube channel that I found on YouTube that I found quite interesting about the Madeleine McCann case, and I'm sure that you will too. They're not particularly long, but they are very, very interesting and very insightful. So make sure you go and check them out. Make sure you put a thumbs up on them. And like I say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure you do. Anytime that I do one of these shows on Diesel's channel, I'll be posting videos on there to sort of that are on the the same subject as this, so that it can give you a bit of a feel about what could be coming up. So yeah, make sure you go and check that out. It is good. There are good watches, and yeah. So thanks ever so much. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and watch those videos, and also go and give Diesel some support by clicking on the like button and subscribing to him. Right, so let's move on and let's get back into it. So, the Madeleine McCann case, the early response. So let's look into that now. So, in the early response, the Portuguese police, the Guarda Nacional Republicana, the GNR, were coordinating all of that, and 2 officers from the Guarda Nacional Republicana arrived at the resort at 11:10 in the evening from Lagos, which was about 5 miles, 8 kilometers away. And then at midnight, after briefly searching, they alerted the Policia Judiciaria, the PJ, the criminal police in nearby Portimao. It is claimed that Kate McCann recounted that the PJ arrived just after 1 a.m. and according to the PJ, they arrived within 10 minutes of being alerted. Now, at 2 a.m., 2 patrol dogs were brought to the resort, and at 8 a.m., 4 search and rescue dogs arrived. Police officers had their leave cancelled and started searching waterways, walls, caves, sewers, and ruins around Praia de Luz. Inspector Gonçalo Amaral, head of the PJ in Portimao, became the inquiry's coordinator. It was widely acknowledged that mistakes were made during the so-called golden hours soon after the disappearance, including neither border nor marine police were given descriptions of Madeleine for many hours. Officers did not make house-to-house searches. Kate claimed that roadblocks were first put in place at 10 a.m. the next morning. Police did not request motorway surveillance pictures of vehicles leaving Praia de Luz the night of the disappearance, or of the road between Lagos and Via Real de Santo Antonio on the Spanish border. It took Interpol 5 days to issue a global missing person alert. Not everyone in the resort at the time was interviewed. Holidaymakers later contacted the British police to say no one had spoken to them. Right, so let's get back into it. So Joanne's saying that she's getting a ginger cat. So much mystery surrounding this case. Yeah, there is, Joe. It's frightening. It really is. Ginger cat. Yeah, I love ginger cats. Absolutely brilliant. I hope you're going to call him or her Simba. I'm joking. Darren says, and the biggest question surrounding this, should the parents had left the kids alone? Most people say this should never have happened. Yep, lots of people say that, mate, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. The crime scene was not secured. Portuguese police took samples from Madeleine's bedroom, which were sent to 3 forensic labs, and DNA from one stranger had been found, but around 20 people had entered the apartment before it was closed off. According to Kate, an officer placed tape across the doorway of the children's bedroom, but left at 3 a.m. without securing the apartment. The PJ case file showed that 5A lay empty for a month after the disappearance, then was let out to tourists before being sealed off in August 2007 for more forensic tests. An officer dusted the bedroom window's exterior shutter for fingerprints without wearing gloves or other protective clothing. Now, the British police in the United Kingdom, Leicestershire Police, who are the McCann's home police force, led by Chief Constable Matt Bagot, coordinated the British response, although it remained a Portuguese inquiry. A strategic coordinating group was set up, which included in it Leicestershire Police, the Serious Organised Crime Agency, SOCA, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre, CEOP, and the National Police Improvement Agency, NIPE. The PJ gave a British team a room in which to work, but apparently they resented their presence. In Portugal, the information was collected in boxes, and in addition, the PJ had less autonomy than police in the UK, often having to wait for magistrates to make decisions which slowed things down. In an interview for Anthony Sumner's and Robin Swan's book, Looking for Madeleine, 2014, Jim Gamble, head of CEOP, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre, at the time said the Portuguese police felt that they were being condescended to and that the British were acting like a colonial power. And in one of those videos I uploaded the other day, the one with the guy, because there was two, there's one with a woman and there was one with a guy. The guy draws reference to this, the attitude of the British police over in Portugal, and it's quite interesting the way he talks about it. So that's another good reason to go and watch it. But honestly, the guy's one, I find it really, really interesting, the things that he was coming out with. So moving on. Some media and public relations. A PJ officer acknowledged in 2010 that the Portuguese police had been suspicious of the McCanns from the start because of the media circus that surrounded them. I have to say that I find this quite harsh, because I have to say that if my child went missing, I would do anything in my power to find them, and I would utilize any tool that I was able to find my missing child. No stone would be left unturned, let me tell you. The McCanns were obviously very well connected and had the financial resources to bring in all sorts of tools to help them. And as I've said, if I had all those resources available to me, I would most definitely not think twice about using them, no matter what they were, to find my missing child. Jerry told Vanity Fair in 2008 that he had decided to market Madeleine to keep her in the public eye, and as a consequence, a string of public relations consultants arrived in Praia da Luz. However, this was deeply resented by the local police. He saw the media attention as counterproductive. Alex Woolfall of the British PR firm Bell Pottinger, representing Mark Warner Limited, dealt with the media for the first 10 days. Then, in an unprecedented move, the British government sent in a succession of press officers. When the British government withdrew the press officers, the McCanns then hired a succession of people to fill the role. So, the McCanns set up Madeleine's Fund, leaving No Stone Unturned Limited, on the 15th of May 2007 to raise money and awareness. Its website attracted 58 million hits in the first 2 days. And throughout May and June, the couple's PR team arranged events to sustain media interest in the case, which included a visit to meet the Pope on the 30th of May 2007. And a month later, balloons were let off in 300 cities around the world. By early June, journalists were voicing concerns. The sheer professionalism of it troubled journalists, according to Matthew Paris. There was at the time a relentless media campaign, and Madeleine appeared regularly in a wide range of media outlets. And in fact, as an example, Madeleine appeared on as a Sky News menu option. And in June 2008, a search for her name on YouTube returned 3,680 videos and over 7 million posts. Right. So before we move on, we've got some more chats here. Darren says it's normal for inquiry teams to not get on when there is a dual interest. Okay, that's interesting. That is interesting. Taib says, hello, Warren. How are you, mate? Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Taib. I hope you're doing well. Why Hayes, that German paedophile is being used. That German paedophile is being used as an scapegoat. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that as well, mate. I have heard that. Taib says, hi, Darren. Hi, Joanne. So, what we're going to do now, we're going to look at the first Portuguese inquiry was between 2007 2008. And the first Arguido, as it is called in Portugal. So the first thing we need to do is establish what is an Arguido. An Arguido or Arguida, depending on if it's male or female, which is normally translated as named suspect or formal suspect. It is a status used in Portuguese type legal systems, including those of Portugal, Macau, Angola, and Mozambique. It is given to a person whom the authorities suspect may have committed an offence. There is no direct equivalent to the UK legal system, as far as I'm aware, and I'm not sure if there's any other legal systems around the world that has similar status. In a criminal investigation, a person has to be declared an arguido prior to being arrested. Portuguese law makes a distinction between arguido and suspect. Right, hold on. Where are we? So, 12 days after Madeleine's disappearance, Robert Murat, a 34-year-old British Portuguese property consultant, became the first arguido suspect in the case. He was born in Hammersmith, West London, and Murat lived in his mother's house 150 yards, 137 meters from apartment 5A in the direction in which the man in the Tanner sighting had been walking. He was named as a suspect after a Sunday Mirror journalist told Portuguese police he had been asking about the case. Murat had briefly worked as an official interpreter with the PJ. Murat said that the reason he wanted to be involved was because he had a daughter in England around Madeleine's age. It has been claimed that numerous people had seen Murat outside the apartment 5A shortly after Madeleine's disappearance, which included 3 members of the Tapas 7, an Ocean Club nanny, and 2 British holidaymakers. This would not have been surprising, however, considering how close Murat lived to 5A, but he and his mother said he had been at home all evening. The McCann circle was clearly suspicious of Murat, so much so that one of the McCann's supporters offered BBC reporter Richard Bilton exclusive access to any new developments in the case if Bilton would report back what the press pack was saying about Murat. Beginning on the 15th of May 2007, Murat's home and garden were searched and his technology items were examined, as well as two of his associates were questioned. In March 2008, one of those associates had his car set on fire with the word "falla," which is speaking English, sprayed in red on the pavement. In July 2008, the case linking Murat to Madeleine's disappearance was archived when it became apparent that there was nothing to link Murat or his friends to the case. And in 2014, during Operation Grange, one of those friends was questioned again as a witness. And then in December that year, Murat and his wife were questioned, also on behalf of Scotland Yard, along with 8 others. In 2017, Murat's mother added her voice to those who had witnessed suspicious events around 5A that night. She told the BBC, that she had driven past um, the apartment 5A and seen a young woman behaving suspiciously just outside it, and a small brown car speeding the wrong way down a one-way street towards the apartment. Um, So, witness statements. Now, between January and May 2007, there had been a fourfold increase in burglaries in the area, including 2 in the McCann's block in the 17 days before the disappearance, during which burglars had entered through windows. In statements to the PJ, witnesses described men behaving oddly near the apartment 5A in the days before the disappearance and on the day itself. Scotland Yard came to believe that these men may have engaged in reconnaissance for an abduction or burglary. Several witnesses reported that men were collecting for charity, and some of them reported as being aggressive, pushy, and intimidating. In the days in the lead up to the disappearance and in the hours shortly after, there were also numerous reports of men hanging around in close proximity to the McCann's apartment, either across the road from her or inside the block, behaving strangely. So, McCann's as Arguidos. The first indication that the media were turning against the McCanns came on the 6th of June 2007, when a German journalist asked them during a Berlin press conference whether they were involved in the disappearance. After this, it seemed that the media were happy to engage in a negative campaign against the McCanns and the so-called Tapas Seven. This included articles and stories appearing in the press and social media for years to come, which included allegations of discrepancies in the statements provided by the McCanns and the Tapas Seven. The PJ believed, particularly from August onwards, that because of these disappearance discrepancies, there'd been no abduction, but rather that Madeleine had died in the apartment as a result of an accident, perhaps after being sedated to help her stay asleep, and that her parents had hidden her body for a month before retrieving her and driving her to an unknown place in a car they had hired over 3 weeks after the disappearance. So some of these discrepancies were why when Kate discovered Madeleine was missing, she had run to the Tapas restaurant, leaving the twins alone in 5A, when she could have used her mobile phone or shouted to the group from the 5A's rear balcony. Another issue was whether the exterior shutter over Madeleine's bedroom could be opened from the outside. A journalist, Danny Collins, stated that the shutter could only be opened from the inside. However, Jerry reported that he was of the belief that it could only be opened from the outside. Against this, Portuguese police said that the shutter could not be raised from the outside without being forced, but there was no sign of forced entry. They also said forcing the shutter open would have caused a lot of noise. Kate's shout of "they've taken her" was viewed with suspicion, as though she had been trying to lend credence to a false abduction story. In 2010, Carlos Anjos, former head of the Police Detectives Union in Portugal, told the BBC programme Panorama that most Portuguese investigators still believe Madeleine had died as a result of an accident in the apartment. So, moving on. Again, please, guys, make sure you subscribe to Diesel Arsenal. This channel that you're watching tonight is Diesel's channel of Diesel Arsenal. He's a great mate of mine, a lovely, lovely guy, 100% honest and as honest and straight up as you could hope to find. It's an absolute diamond geezer, and I love doing this for him. I come on here periodically to do stuff about paranormal, the unexplained, and conspiracy theories. So he does a lot of stuff about football, life in general, and Arsenal Football Club. That is, he talks about TV and all sorts of things, different things. He doesn't just talk about Arsenal. He talks about lots of things on his channel, and the guy is unbelievable. It's when he comes on stream, he talks and talks and talks and talks, and it can go on for a good couple of hours. But when you're it's incredible when you're watching him. It just goes. The time just goes so quickly. You don't even realize how quickly the time is passing, and before you know where you are, the whole evening has gone. But that's not a bad thing. It's because he's so interesting. The way he talks and the way he presents himself is absolutely superb. And like I say, I absolutely love the guy. I think he's brilliant. His presentation skills are superb, and he's never boring. So yeah, it's a great channel, and he does lots of good content. So make sure you support him. Do yourself a favor, if you haven't subscribed to him already, go and check him out, because it's brilliant. So I'm no doubt he'll be streaming again soon. So make sure you check him out, because you won't be disappointed. So make sure you put thumbs up on this video, and like I say, if you're new, make sure you subscribe, and I'll be coming on here on a regular basis to talk about things to do with the paranormal and the unexplained and conspiracy theories. So also, my channel is Unveiling Realities. I set it up a couple of months ago now, I think, and you can see there how you can interact with me. I'm on Instagram, X, and Facebook, and on the Unveiling Realities YouTube channel, I put stuff up about conspiracy theories, the unexplained, and the paranormal, stuff like that. And usually on there, well, any time that I do one of these shows for Diesel, I will upload stuff around the subject that I'm talking about on Diesel's channel, just so that you can get a taste of what it's all going to be about and stuff like that. So yeah, and in that vein, there are a couple of videos on there about the Madeleine McCann case that I recommend that you watch. So yeah, they're very interesting. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but go and check them out because they're great. And let's just have a quick look at the chat. Darren Taib says, hi, Darren. Hi, Joanne. David Dundas is saying, hi, morning all. Just woke up. Morning to you, David. I hope you're well, buddy. I hope things are nice and sunny and warm for you out there in sunny New Zealand. And David Dundas says, Joanne, how many cats you got? That's a good question. It seems to be growing by the day, mate. But fair play to Joanne. Anyway, let's move on. So Portugal sends a letter rogatory. So what is a letter rogatory? This is a formal request from normally a court to a foreign court for some type of judicial assistance. On the 28th of June 2007, The McCann suggested to the PJ that the police request help from Danny Krugel, a South African former police officer who had developed a matter orientation system, which was a handheld device that he claimed could locate missing people using DNA and satellites. On hearing about this years later, one scientist said it had caused his BS detector to go off the scale. Kate wrote in 2011 that Krugel's claims made no sense, but the couple were desperate and so they agreed for him to help them find Madeleine. It is claimed that in July he told the McCanns that his equipment had picked up a static signal in an area of the beach near the Roca Negra cliff. The officer in charge of the PJ inquiry, Inspector Conchalo Amaral, at this point believed the McCanns were involved in the disappearance and that Kate was using Krugel. It is also claimed that she had considered using psychics to disclose the location of her daughter's body without compromising herself. Excuse me a sec. With this in mind, the PJ sent a letter rogatory to the British police to ask for assistance in the search for Madeleine's body. In response, Mark Harrison, the National Search Advisor for the NPIA, the National Policing Improvement Agency, arrived in Praia da Luz, walked around the search areas, and then flew over them by helicopter. Describing Krugel's ideas as highly unlikely, Harrison's report, dated the 23rd of July 2007, said that 100 officers had searched up to 9.3 miles, 15 kilometres around Praia da Luz, but the officer in charge and most of the team had no training in search procedures, with the exception of a search and rescue team from Lisbon. Search dogs had been used, but after 5 days, instead of within 2 days as the handlers recommend. Harrison suggested searching the beach and shoreline, and open the area near the village, Robert Murat's property, apartment 5A, the Tappers Sevens apartments, and any hired vehicles. He recommended using ground penetrating radar, bringing in Keela and Eddie, 2 Springer Spaniel sniffer dogs from South Yorkshire. So, the British sniffer dogs arrived, Keela and Eddie. Keela was a forensic investigation dog trained to give her handler, Martin Grime, a passive alert to the scent of human blood by placing her nose close to the spot, then freezing in that position. Eddie was an enhanced victim recovery dog, or cadaver dog. Now, those who don't know, a cadaver is like a dead body, who gave a bark alert to the scent of human cadavers, including shortly after the death of the subject, even if the remains were buried, incinerated, or in water. He was trained to bark only in response to that scent and not for any other reason. The dogs arrived in Praia da Luz on the 31st of July 2007 and were taken to the apartment 5A nearby Wasteland and the beach. Both dogs alerted behind the sofa in the living room of 5A, and Eddie gave an alert near the wardrobe in the main bedroom, but there were no alerts in the beach or Wasteland. The PJ obtained warrants to search the house the McCanns had rented on Rua das Flores and the silver Renault Scenic the couple had hired 24 days after Madeleine went missing. The house that the McCanns had rented on Rua de Flores, which was searched on the 2nd of August, and Eddie only alerted when he came across Madeleine's cuddle cat, and Keela did not give an alert. The police left with boxes filled with a variety of items including Madeleine's cuddle cat and a friend's Bible that had been borrowed, which had a passage in it that had been marked by the owner from 2 Samuel, which was about the death of a child. The items were taken to another location, which Eddie alerted his handler to one of the boxes which had clothes inside it. A source close to the McCann's lawyers told reporters if there was indeed a smell of a corpse on Kate's clothes, it could have been caused by a contact with corpses as a family doctor. The police removed the Renault, and on the 6th of August, Keeler and Eddie were taken to an underground car park opposite the PJ headquarters in Portimao, where 10 cars were parked 20, 30 feet apart, including McCann's Renault and Murat's. Eddie, the cadaver dog, gave an alert outside the McCann's car by the driver's door, and the next morning, Keeler alerted to the rear driver's side inside the boot and the map compartment in the driver's door, which contained the ignition key and key ring. When the key ring was hidden underneath sand in a fire bucket, she alerted again as she did when the bucket was moved to a different floor of the car park. After this, almost immediately, the Portuguese press began running stories that Madeleine had died inside the apartment. So the British DNA analysis. Hair and other fibres were collected from areas in the car and apartment 5A where Keeler and Eddie had given alerts and were sent to the Forensic Science Service in Birmingham for DNA profiling around 8th of August 2007. At this point, according to the Sunday Times, the PJ abandoned the abduction theory. On the 8th of August, without waiting for the results from Birmingham, Portuguese police called the McCanns to a meeting in Portimao where Guillermo Encarnacio, PGA Regional Director, and Luis Neves, Coordinator of the Dirección Central de Combate ao Banditismo in Lisbon, told them the case was now a murder inquiry. Both the McCanns were interrogated that day. The officers suggested that Kate's memory was faulty. On the 3rd of September, John Lowe of the FSS emailed Detective Superintendent Stuart Pryor of the Leicestershire Police, liaison officer between the British and Portuguese authorities. Lowe told Stuart Pryor that a sample from the car boot contained 15 out of 19 of Madeleine's DNA components, and the result was too complex for meaningful interpretation. The McCanns made arguidos. So Lowe's email was translated into Portuguese on the 4th of September 2007. The next day, according to Kate, the PJ proposed that if she were to admit that Madeleine had died in an accident in the apartment and that she had hidden the body, she might only serve a 2-year sentence. Her husband would not be charged and would be free to leave. After this, almost immediately, the Portuguese press began running. Where are we? Sorry. What am I doing? So both parents were given arguido status on the 7th of September and were advised by their lawyer not to answer questions. The PJ told Jerry that Madeleine's DNA had been found in the car boot and behind the sofa in apartment 5A. Jerry did respond to questions, but Kate declined to reply to 48 questions she was asked during an 11-hour interview. The DNA evidence was 100% matched, journalists in Portugal were told. British tabloid headlines included "Corpse in McCann Car," London Evening Standard, while the Daily Star reported that a clump of Madeleine's hair had been found in the car. The leaks came directly from the Portuguese police, according to testimony in 2012 12 from Jerry Lawton, a Daily Star reporter, to the Leverson inquiry. So, despite their Arguido status, the McCanns were allowed to leave Portugal and, on legal advice, did so immediately, arriving back in England on the 9th September 2007. The following day, Chief Inspector Tavares de Almeida of the PJ in Portimao signed a 9-page report concluding that Madeleine had died in apartment 5A as a result of an accident, that the restaurant, meal, and apparent regular checks on the McCann children had been part of the cover-up, that the Tapas 7 had helped to mislead the police, and the McCanns had concealed the child's body before faking an abduction. On the 11th of September, the public prosecutor, Jose Cunha de Magalhães y Menendez, handed the case file to Judge Pedro Miguel de dos Años Frias, and he also applied for the seizure of Kate's diary and Jerry's laptop. And it is alleged that the police also wanted to trace telephone calls between the McCanns and the Tapas 7. Control Risks, a British security company, paid an anonymous donor to assist the McCanns, paid by an anonymous donor to assist the McCanns since the 7th of May 2007, took hair samples from the McCanns twins on the 24th of September 2007 at their parents' request. The twins had slept through the commotion in apartment 5A after Madeleine was reported missing. Kate wrote that she was concerned the abductor might have given the children sedatives. According to the PJ files, Kate had asked them to take samples 3 months after the disappearance, but they had not done so. Control Lists had took a sample from Kate too, but to rebut allegations that she was on medication, no trace of drugs was found. Right, let's have a quick look in the chat. And David is saying, Joanne, how many cats have you got? Darren is saying, it's clear that the Portuguese police highly suspected them. Early Doors Football says, evening, Warren, I hope you're all good. Yeah, I'm great, mate. Thanks ever so much for asking. I'm fine, thank you. I hope you're good too. And Early Doors says, evening, all in the chat. Yeah, Tony, make sure you go and check out Tony's channel, Early Doors Football TV. He's an absolutely lovely, lovely fella, massive West Ham fan. And he talks a lot on there about West Ham and also about football in general. He's a lovely, lovely fella. So please make sure you go and check him out. And Darren is 100% right. The Portuguese police were highly suspicious about the McCanns almost from the get-go. So, Gonçalo Amaral's removal and later developments. On the 2nd of October 2007, Chief Inspector Gonçalo Amaral was removed from his post as the inquiry's coordinator after telling the newspaper Diário de Notícias that British police had only pursued leads helpful to the McCanns, and he was replaced by Paulo Rebelo, Deputy National Director of the PJ, and its expanded team of detectives, and began a case review. The PJ planned in December 2007 to hold a reconstruction in Praia da Luz, including McCann's and Tapas 7 rather than actors, but the Tapas 7 declined to participate. Also this month, on the day that the McCanns were at the European Parliament to help promote a monitoring system for missing children, transcripts of their interview with the PJ were leaked to Spanish television. The national director of the PJ, Alipio Ribeiro, resigned not long after this, citing media pressure. he had publicly said that the police had been hasty in naming the McCanns as suspects. In April 2008, the Tapper Seven were interviewed in England by the Leicestershire police with a PJ in attendance. In 2009, a judge had issued an injunction against further publication or sales of the book, but the Lisbon Court of Appeal overturned. Where are we? Hold on, there's something's gone wrong here. Right, hold on. Let's go back here. I've gone a bit wrong here. Sorry about this, guys. So the national director of the PJ, Alipio Ribeiro, just resigned not long after this, citing media pressure. He had publicly said that the police had been hasty in naming the McCanns as suspects. In April 2008, the Tapper Seven were interviewed in England by the Leicestershire police with the PJ in attendance. And as of May 2008, Portuguese prosecutors were examining several charges against the McCanns, including child abandonment, abduction, homicide, and concealment of a corpse. So, on the 21st of July 2008, the Portuguese Attorney General Fernando Jose Pinto Monteiro announced that there was no evidence to link the McCanns or Robert Murat to Madeleine's disappearance. Their Guido status was lifted and the case was closed. On the 4th of August, Portugal's Ministério Público released 17 case files, which included a 58-page prosecutor's report, which concluded no element of proof whatsoever was found, which allows us to form any lucid, sensible, serious, and honest conclusion about the circumstances. So, Gonçalo Amaral's book, 24th of July 2008. In June 2008, Gonçalo Amaral resigned from the force after the tensions between the McCanns and the PJ had gotten even worse. It is claimed that in this book, Amaral alleged that Madeleine had died in an accident in the apartment, and that to cover it up, the McCanns faked an abduction. 3 days after the case was closed, Amaral's book was published in Portugal, and by November 2008, it had sold 180,000 copies, and by 2010, it had been translated into 6 languages. A documentary based on the book was then broadcast on Portuguese TV in April 2009, which was watched by 2.2 million people, and in 2009, the McCanns began a libel action against Amaral and his publisher. The legal fees for this action were covered by Madeleine's funds, and in 2015, they were awarded over 600,000 euros in libel damages. However, in 2016, Amaral successfully appealed that decision. In 2009, a judge had issued an injunction against further publication or sales of the book, but the Lisbon Court of Appeal overturned the ban in 2010, stating that it violated Amaral's freedom of expression. There then followed a series of legal actions on both, where the ban on the book was reinstated and then lifted until finally in February 2017, the Portuguese Supreme Court ruled against the McCanns, and in their 76-page ruling, the judges wrote that the McCanns had not, in fact, been cleared by the archiving of the criminal case in 2008. In March 2017, the Supreme Court rejected the McCann's final appeal. Right, so let's move on. So, guys, please don't forget, this is really, really important. This guy is allowing me to come on to his channel, his YouTube channel, and talk to you guys about this stuff. So please show him some love and give him some thanks by clicking on the like button on the video. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to his channel. On this channel, Diesel will talk about things to do with Arsenal Football Club. He will talk about life in general. He will talk about TV and music and all sorts of things. The other night, he did a brilliant show about racism in football, which was absolutely superb. Really, really hit the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned. And not a lot of people like talking about that subject, but he did, so fair play to him. So make sure you put a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. He's a really engaging character, and he can talk for hours and hours and hours, and he's absolutely superb when he gets talking. It just grips you, and you can find that the whole evening has gone by when you know what's happened, because he's so interesting, and he's never ever boring at all. It's superb. Really, really is great stuff. So make sure you go and check him out. Also, please come and subscribe to my channel, which is called Unveiling Realities, on YouTube. And you can also interact with me on Instagram, on the X platform, and on Facebook. And what I do on that channel is I talk about things to do with paranormal, the unexplained, and conspiracy theories. And I've only opened it a short while ago. And what I do is when I come on to Diesel's channel, I will upload videos related to the subject I'm going to talk about on Diesel's channel, just to give you a bit extra insight into the subject we're going to be talking about. So I hope that's going to be interesting. So Darren says it's a widely held belief that the McCanns should have come under an inquiry for child neglect by leaving their kids alone. A lot of people say that, mate. A lot of people definitely say that. Early Doors says, can't stay long, coming in to give my support and to smash the like button. Warren, always a pleasure to hear your shows. Thank you very much, Tony. It's lovely to see you, mate. I hope you're doing good. Noel Kane says, big ups, Warren. Nice to see you, Noel. I hope you're good. It's great to see you, my man. And Noel also says, is Madeleine still out there, or is she sadly dead? This is what nobody knows, mate. Nobody knows. Darren says, I do think it's appropriate that the Portuguese officer I don't think it's appropriate that the Portuguese officer wrote a book about it. Smash the like, says Darren, and good evening, EDF, he says. Exactly. And yeah, I think you're right, mate. I don't think it was appropriate for him to write that book, but he did. So there you go. Right. So the Madeleine Fund inquiry. The McCann set up Madeleine's Fund, leaving no stone unturned limited on the 15th of May 2007, 12 days after the disappearance. Over 80 million people visited the fund's website in the 3 months after the disappearance. From September 2007, Brian Kennedy of Everest Windows supported the couple financially and his lawyer joined the fund's board of directors, which in February 2017 had 7 directors, apparently including the McCanns. From May 2007 to March 2008, there were appeals by public figures screened at football matches across the UK, and the fund received £1.8 million, which included £1.4 million through the bank, £390,000 online, and £64,000 for merchandise. There were also donations received from a wide variety of public figures, organisations, including national newspapers, who made payments to the fund in the shape of libel damages, as well as a deal to serialise Kate McCann's book in News International publications. Madeleine's fund did not cover the couple's legal costs arising from their status as arguidos, but it was criticised in October 2007 for having made 2 of the McCanns' mortgage payments before they were made arguidos. In December 2015, the fund stood at around £750,000. Private investigators were hired, and Madeleine's fund hired several firms of private investigators, which caused friction with the Portuguese police. Some of these frictions included an anonymous benefactor paid for the services of British security company Control Risks. Multimillionaire businessman Brian Kennedy went to Morocco in September 2007 to look into a reported sighting of Madeleine. He also hired an agency, Metodo 3 for 6 months at £50,000 a month, which put 35 investigators on the case in Europe and Morocco. In 2009, retired detective Inspector David Edgar was hired, and in August 2009, Edgar released an e-fit of the woman who is believed asked 2 British men in Barcelona shortly after the disappearance whether they were there to deliver her new daughter. Property developer Stephen Birch used ground-penetrating radar and claimed in 2012 that scans showed there were bones beneath the driveway of a house in Praia da Luz. A Norwegian woman had reported seeing a girl matching Madeleine's description in a petrol station near Marrakesh, Morocco on the 9th of May 2007, and when she returned home to Spain, she telephoned the Spanish police after learning about the disappearance. It is alleged that a month later, according to Kate McCann, the police had still not formally interviewed the woman, which led the McCanns to fear that leads were not being pursued. So, in 2008, Madeleine's fund hired Oakley International, a Washington, D.C. registered detective agency, for over £500,000 for 6 months. Oakley sent a 5-man team to Portugal who focused on undercover operations with the Ocean Club among paedophile rings and the Roma community. The team was led by Henry Exton, a former British police officer who had worked for MI5, and he focused on the sighting of Martin and Mary Smith of a man carrying a child towards the beach, and e-fits were produced on the Smiths' descriptions. It seemed that e-fits may have borne some resemblance to Jerry McCann, which it felt may have led to the rise of some alternative theories about Madeleine's disappearance. And to counter these, there were several witness statements placing Jerry in the tapas restaurant at the same time as the Smith sighting. It is alleged that Martin Smith had seen the BBC coverage of the McCann's arrival in the UK from Portugal, which showed Jerry exiting the aircraft carrying his son in his arms, and Smith felt that Jerry was the man he had seen carrying the child in Praia da Luz after reporting his thoughts to the Leicestershire police, accepted that he was mistaken. It should be remembered that at this time in the UK there was a lot of discussion about the McCann's alleged involvement in the disappearance. Exton submitted his report to Madeleine's fund in November 2008 and suggested releasing the EFITs, but the fund told Exton that the report and its EFITs had to remain confidential. The relationship between the company and the fund had soured, and in part because of a dispute over fees, and in part because the report was critical of the McCanns and their friends. It suggested that Madeleine may have died in an accident after letting herself out of the apartment through its unlocked patio doors. Madeleine's fund passed the EFITs to the police, and the PJ and the Leicestershire police had them by October 2009, and Scotland Yard received them when they became involved in August 2011, but did not otherwise release them. Scotland Yard released the EFITs in October 2013 for a BBC Crime Watch reconstruction. After it had aired, the Sunday Times reported that the McCanns had had the EFITs since 2008. In response, the couple complained that the Sunday Times story implied wrongly that they had not only failed to publish the EFITs, that they had withheld them from the police. The newspaper published an apology on an inside page in December 2013. The McCanns subsequently sued and received £55,000 in damages, which Jerry said he would be donating to charity. So since 2009, there have been further police inquiries and involvement in the case, including the McCanns meeting the Home Secretary Alan Johnson in 2009 to request a review of the case, and then Johnson commissioned a scoping report from Jim Gamble of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command. In May 2010, the Gamble report was delivered, which examined how several British agencies had become involved in the search for Madeleine. And in July 2014, at Scotland Yard's request, the PJ in Faro interviewed 4 Portuguese citizens with Scotland Yard in attendance. No evidence was found to implicate them. In December 2014, 11 people, including 3 Britons, were interviewed, and allegedly, according to Portuguese media, Scotland Yard compiled 253 questions for the interviewees, including "Did you kill Madeleine?" and "Where did you hide the body?" In June 2020, the public prosecutor in the German city of Braunschweig ordered an inquiry regarding the possible involvement of then 43-year-old Christian Bruckner, a convicted sex offender who was alleged to have been living in a borrowed VW camper van in the Algarve region at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. So, the McCanns and the tabloids and social media. So let's start with trial by media. Twitter, which was 1 year old when Madeleine McCann went missing, became the source of much of the criticism surrounding this case. By 2017, 10 years after Madeleine went missing, the hashtag McCann hashtag was still producing 100 tweets an hour, according to researchers at the University of Huddersfield. There were many social media attacks, and some of these included a threat to kidnap one of the McCann's twins, talk of phoning in to Crime Watch with false information and an effort to sabotage Crime Watch and Scotland Yard's reconstruction, an anti-McCann website. The couple's status as photogenic, articulate, and professional was first seen as beneficial as offers of help came in from across the United Kingdom, um, including from the Prime Minister. And it's alleged that the McCanns took full advantage of this by hiring public relations consultants on offering regular events to sustain media interest. However, the media spotlight eventually turned against the couple, and there began what PR consultant Michael Cole called the monstering of the McCanns. Right, so let's move on. So some of the criticism that was levelled at the McCanns was leaving their children alone in an unlocked apartment despite the availability of Ocean Club babysitters and a creche. Questions were asked as to why they had not faced child abandonment charges, as many believed a working class couple would have. In June 2007, an online petition raised 17,000 plus signatures asking for Leicestershire Social Services to investigate how the children came to be left unattended. Kate's appearance and demeanour were discussed, with it being felt that she was cold and controlled, too attractive, too thin, too well dressed, or too intense. It was argued that Kate had been advised by abduction experts not to cry on camera because the kidnapper might enjoy her distress. A Portuguese tabloid, Correio de Manhã, recited sources complaining that she had not shed a single tear. Journalism professor Nicola Goch argued that Kate McCann enjoined a long list of mothers deemed killers because of her unacceptable maternal behaviour. In November 2011, the McCanns testified before the Leveson inquiry into British press standards. The inquiry heard that Peter Hill, the editor of the Daily Express, in particular, had become obsessed with the couple. Lord Justice Leveson was highly critical of the press when he called the articles that had been published by a variety of newspapers as complete piffle. Roy Greenslade described them as no journalistic accident, but rather a sustained campaign of vitriol against a grief-stricken family. So, libel actions. The McCanns had and their friends who were with them in Portugal, also known as the Tapa Seven, when Madeleine disappeared, brought several libel actions, including against Gonçalo Amaral and his publisher, the Daily Express, the Daily Star, and their sister Sunday papers, and the Sunday Times. In addition to the McCanns and their friends' libel actions were brought by Robert Murat in relation to 100 articles published by 11 newspapers, including the Sun and the News of the World, the Daily Express, the Sunday Express, the Daily Star, the London Evening Standard, the Daily Mail and Metro, Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror, and Daily Record. Murat also brought a libel action against the British Sky Broadcasting Group, and according to the Observer, it was the largest number of separate libel actions brought in the UK by the same person in relation to one issue. So, there's some more chats in here, and Darren saying, we've had that one. The difficulty with this is not too much CTV out there. Yeah, that's true, mate. The facts are child killers don't have to enter premises to abduct. They normally snatch kids from the street. To enter a property loses too much physical and forensic risk. Darren says the parents are getting caught up in a lot of legal issues, diverting them away from finding Madeleine. Yep, that's very true, mate. It's very, very true. other alternative theories. So one theory that is often put forward to explain the disappearance of Madeleine McCann is that who was nearly 4 at the time left the apartment by herself, perhaps to look for her parents, and was abducted by a passerby or fell into one of the open construction sites nearby. This is widely regarded as unlikely. According to her mother, Madeleine would have had to open the unlocked patio doors, close the curtains behind her, close the doors again, and open the child gate at the top of the stairs, and then open and close the gate leading to the street. Right. So, guys, guys, please make sure you subscribe to Diesel Arsenal. Okay, please. He is kindly allowing me to come onto his YouTube channel and to talk to you all about this subject tonight. And also, I've done several other shows on the related to the paranormal and conspiracy theories and the unexplained. And you'll find them all on Diesel's YouTube channel. I've spoken about the Bermuda Triangle. I've spoken about Area 51. I've spoken about the issues that are going through the United States Congress about UFOs and how the American government has finally admitted that they're real. And I've spoken about the Loch Ness Monster. I've spoken about ghosts. I've spoken about Bob Lazar. I've spoken about all sorts of different weird and wonderful things. So make sure you go and check them out. Make sure you go and check out Diesel's channel. He talks about Arsenal. He talks about life in general. He's not your run of the mill Arsenal YouTube channel or football YouTube channel. He talks about all sorts of different things on his channel, and I think it's brilliant. I really do. I'll take my hat off to him for having the balls to do that. It's fantastic. So fair play to the fella, and please give him all the support and love in the world because he deserves it. So yeah, make sure you go and check him out. Please make sure you put likes on his videos, and make sure you subscribe to his channel if you haven't done so already, because if you haven't, you're missing out basically, because it is like a hidden gem. So make sure you go and check it out. Also, guys, please make sure you subscribe to my channel about the paranormal, the unexplained, and conspiracy theories. It's called Unveiling Realities on YouTube. You can also interact with me on Instagram and on the X platform and Facebook. And what happens is currently, when I'm coming on this channel, do a subject for Diesel, I will post stuff about the subject I'm going to be talking about or have spoken about on my YouTube channel, just to give you a bit extra. And there's a couple of videos about the Madeleine McCann case on that channel at the moment, so go and check them out. And like I say, if you haven't subscribed to it already, please make sure you do. Darren says it's all well and good slagging off the media, but you don't hear people complaining when they assist like the Huntley murders. That's very true, mate. You don't. Carl Walsh Gunner's in the chat, and he says, "Big up, we're on you, legend. I'm going to tune into this, mate." Thank you very much, Carl. I hope you're enjoying it, buddy. And Darren says, Diesel is a great watcher. Well, there you go. Just take my word for it. Darren's saying it as well. So make sure you check it out. So, we're coming towards the end now. So this is one I took some clips, I think, from this one and put them on my YouTube channel. Sonia Poulton on the James English Anything Goes podcast. Let me just put that. I'm going to put the link for this in the chat now. Right. Sonia Poulton has been quite critical of the McCanns, and she's appeared on the James English podcast. So there you go. There's a link to that YouTube video you can watch. It's very, very interesting. So I'll put it in the chat, and tomorrow I will make sure I put it in as a comment on Diesel's channel for you as well. Anyway, so let's talk about this, right? So when the Portuguese police started to investigate the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, it is claimed by Sonia Poulton that the crime scene had been contaminated, as the McCanns, their friends, and other people from the resort had been through the crime scene before the police arrived. The disappearance of Madeleine was first reported on GMTV through a telephone call made by one of the McCann's friends. It later transpired that later that same week that the friend of the McCanns who had called GMTV lived in the same street as one of Gordon Brown's brothers. She also claimed that she had bumped into Gordon Brown's brother and said, "These are my friends and they need help." It is also claimed that the apartment that the McCanns rented in Portugal was owned by a family called McCann, who were not related to the McCanns. That sounds just bizarre. Witness statements were changed. It was claimed that there was a lot of evidence that the Tapper Seven, as they've become known, were not answering truthfully in their witness statements. Right from the beginning, it's alleged that the fund was being used for legal fees rather than travel fees to go and search for their missing child. Martin Grime is a British world leading dog handler who helps in crime scene investigation in multiple countries, and he and his dogs were employed in the search for Madeleine McCann. He's the owner of the English Springer Spaniels, Eddie and Keeler, two of the most efficient and revered sniffer dogs in the world, who are regarded as being creme de la creme of enhanced victim recovery dogs. Martin Grime trained Eddie to detect odor of human cadavers and Keeler to detect the scent of human blood. He famously assisted the police judiciary investigation into the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, where his dogs Eddie and Keeler directed the odor of human remains as well as dried human blood in the Praia da Luz holiday apartment of the McCann family in 2007. The dogs alerted only in the place to do with Madeleine, which was the apartment of Madeleine's parents' friends, the apartment where Madeleine went missing, a key ring that was in the hire car that Madeleine's parents had hired about 28 days after Madeleine had been reported missing, Kate's trousers, the new apartment that the McCanns had been moved to away from the crime scene. It is claimed that the dogs did not alert anywhere else, and the evidence that they had provided was inconclusive and needed more investigation. Dr. Mark Perkin, who is a world-renowned expert, has offered to re-examine the DNA for free, and he contacted Scotland Yard, where Operation Grange is based, but it's alleged that they were not interested. The McCanns claim that they were first noted that Madeleine had gone missing at 10 p.m. when Kate went back to check on her. Right, hold on. Let's quickly get back into this because a load more chats. A few people saying hello to each other there. When are you back on a Saturday? I'm not sure yet, Joanne. Sorry that I've been a bit elusive about it, but I don't know. Carl Walsh says, Darren, you absolute legend, mate. I hope you're well. Carl says, Darren says, with the people entering a potential crime scene, you would do that because. Sorry, with the people entering a potential crime scene, you would do that because you would think that your child could be hiding somewhere. Darren says, Eddie and Keta, the sniffing dog, laugh out loud. Sound ideal. Carl loves Chinese food. And Carl was, Darren can't beat a Chinese. Certainly can't, mate. Anyway, right. So let's. The frequency of the visits made by the McCanns to check on their children changed at least twice. For example, initially it was claimed that these checks happened every 15 minutes and then it was every 30 minutes. The question was asked by Sonia Bolton, who leaves their small children in an unlocked apartment alone to go and have dinner. Miss Bolton went on to say, so many things about this case simply just do not add up to me. There is a predator on the loose, and you leave your two youngest children alone in the apartment to run over to your partner, who is on the other side of the holiday complex, about 55 metres, 180 foot away, as the crow flies, to tell him that your 3-year-old daughter had disappeared. Miss Bolton also stated the following. The British police have avoided looking at the McCanns. The UK has spent £30 million on a crime that didn't happen in the UK. The people who were there have not been looked at. In any missing person case, especially that of a missing child, the people who are around the child are looked at first. I remember almost from the get-go, there was a campaign to get, and this is my perspective, I remember almost from the get-go, there was a campaign to get the case investigated by the British police because it was claimed that the Portuguese police were incompetent at the time. I put this down to the right-wing, and at the time I put this down to the right-wing British media because the fact of the matter is that most of the British media are very right wing. The Daily Mail, also known as the Daily Jackboot, and almost all of them are supporters of the Tory party. So yeah, and there's another link for a YouTube video that may be of interest here. So let me see if I can put that in the chat for you. There's two, in fact, by the looks of it. So let me just put them in. There you go. There you go. So anyway, yeah, that's Sonia Bolton. Right, then Sonia Bolton and the BBC's Panorama show, Prime Suspect, who took Madeleine McCann. MSM shilling for Kate and Jerry McCann again, but what about Madeleine? So she appeared on YouTube and did a video, like a response to the BBC Panorama show, and this here is a link to that. So check out all these videos, guys, because they're very, very good. And I think this is I think I may have uploaded this one to my channel. I'm not sure. I can't remember, to be honest, but I may have done. So anyway, here we go. She's talking about the Panorama show. And you can see this Panorama show. It's available on the BBC iPlayer. I'm going to put the link for it into the chat for you if you want to watch it. about the Madeleine McCann case. So on the 30th of October this year, or last year, I should say, the BBC Panorama program aired a documentary called Prime Suspect: Who Took Madeleine McCann, after Sonia Poulton posted on her YouTube channel a response to this. This Panorama documentary allegedly went across Portugal and Germany following the so-called prime suspect Christian Bruckner, which was presented by Richard Bilton, who had previously claimed on the 10th anniversary of the disappearance of Madeleine McCann that the Smith family had changed their mind about their sighting. The Smiths are the Irish family who were staying at the holiday home in Portugal the night that Madeleine McCann disappeared. It is claimed that they saw a man carrying a child and went on record as saying that they were 60 to 80% sure it was Madeleine McCann's father, Jerry, who they saw carrying the child. Richard Bilton has claimed that they had changed their mind about this, which saw Sonia Poulton claimed that this was not true. Sonia also claimed that Richard Bilton had received information about the McCann's police interview from Justin McGuinness, who was the McCann's PR officer, which was confidential information. In the Panorama documentary, it was claimed that a delegation of senior Portuguese police officers travelled to London earlier in the year, and whilst they were in London, they met with and apologised to Jerry McCann. Sonia Poulton claimed that we only have the BBC and Richard Bolton's word for the claims that the delegation of Portuguese police officers came to London and apologised to Jerry McCann are correct. So what's happened here? Why? It's gone greyed out. I'm not sure what's happened there, guys. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. I've seen what's happened. It didn't allow me to put it into the link for the Panorama show. Didn't go in for some reason. I'll try it again in a few minutes. We'll see what happens with that. And Sonia Poulton also stated that the Portuguese PJ released a statement which says nothing about any kind of apology. She then went on to say, "Don't trust the BBC, especially when it comes to children." I have to say I agree with her, because they've got a long track record of like appalling behaviour when it comes to children. That's all I'm going to say about that. Sonia Poulton also claims that she had investigated the McCanns, and she firmly believes that they love good publicity, and so therefore she said that she is shocked that the McCanns did not come out and do a press release about it. She also claims that something about this just doesn't add up, and on top of this, she said, "Why would the Portuguese PJ apologise to Jerry, a man by his own admission because of his negligence, his daughter is missing?" He also asked, why are the British Metropolitan Police still continuing the multi-million-pound taxpayer-funded Operation Grange, and stated that it is a crime which occurred in another country, and the British police haven't even investigated the 9 adults who were there with Madeleine on the night she was reported missing. Sonia also claimed that most child abductions are carried out by someone who knows the child. And then she asked the question that, given that this is the case, how come the McCanns haven't been properly investigated by the British police? She also claimed that she felt that Richard Bilton's task in making the Panorama documentary was clear. It was to nail Christian Bruckner, who is currently serving time in a German prison, who has been involved in rape and sexual violence. She believes very strongly that the German police and mainstream media are trying to fit Christian Bruckner to the abduction and murder of Madeleine McCann, so therefore trying to fit a crime to an individual. Hans Volter, the German prosecutor, is nothing but a publicist, Sonia Poulton claims, and that Hans Volter is trying to claim that in one of his prisons, the man who abducted and killed Madeleine McCann because he has wanted a slice of the publicity cake that comes with anything to do with the McCann investigation. Sonia also went on to state that none of these people are to be trusted with the Madeleine McCann investigation, and it was absolutely reprehensible the way that people report on this case. And then she went on to say that it will not help to find out what happened to Madeleine when we are being told, fed publicity statements about the McCanns being apologised to, about a man who was sitting in a German prison being responsible for the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. She also said the truth is out there, but you will not find it on the BBC or on the mainstream media, who love repeating this nonsense, and that they're all complicit in the cover-up. She was also damning of Richard Bilton's claim that he had found a woman who had known Christian B when he was a teenager, and that she told Richard Bilton that Christian B was a rebellious teenager and he was in a teenage gang, and that Christian Bruckner with the gang destroyed a lot of stuff. The woman also alleged that they were out and about, escaping through windows and gone. Sonia Porton questioned the relevance of this statement, saying that it doesn't make him responsible for the world's most famous missing child. In summing up, Sonia Porton claims that the program was PR at its finest, and that McCann's would have be delighted with the program, and the mainstream media followed suit with unsubstantiated quotes from Richard Bilton, who is not and never was a recognised authority on this story. She went on to say, so the question has to be asked, who really cares about what happened to Madeleine McCann? Because it is not the BBC and the other mainstream prostitutes who repeat their stories without checking. Madeleine McCann was the victim here, and it is Madeleine, if she is still alive, who people should be apologising to. So, and there's some more chats here. Joanne says, okay, mate, maybe we can have a natch on the phone one day. Carl, I'm watching the series called Fool Me Once. Carl says, Joanne, is it any good, honey? Joanne says, Carl, yes, it's on Netflix. Joanne says, Carl, are you going to see the Bob Marley film? Darren says, BBC police sadly not to be trusted here in the UK. Carl says, Joanne, yes, I am. I hope it will be a good watch. I'll be looking forward to hearing your assessment of it, Carl. Anyone who doesn't know, Carl Walsh is a film critic, very good one as well, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it, Carl, and hearing your assessment of it. Anyway, so John, this is my favourite one. This is on my channel, on the Unveiling Realities. I uploaded it on there. And I'm just going to see if I can get this link in here. This is a YouTube video. He was on the James English podcast, and he spoke briefly about the Madeleine McCann case. So it was very interesting what he had to say about the case. John Wedger is an ex-Scotland Yard detective. He worked in New Scotland Yard for 27 and a half years, and he was a whistleblower on extremely dark and disturbing goings-ons within the police. During his appearance on Anything Goes with James English podcast, John Wedger claimed that when asked by James English what he believed had happened in the Madeleine McCann case, that he knew a woman who had an involvement in that case from early on. He also said it was his belief that Madeleine McCann had been killed by her parents, and he had heard that the McCanns were swingers, and he had also heard that they had been anaesthetising Madeleine. John Wedger also claims that when she had died, that there was a need to dispose of the body because it may have shown signs of sexual interference, and this come to had this come to light, it would have led to the other children being looked at, and in all likelihood, it meant that no one would have been able to leave that country. John Wedger went on to talk about how there was a massive outcry in the UK for the investigation of the Madeleine case to be done by the British police, because there had been a negative campaign against the Portuguese, where in particular their competence was called into question. And John Wedger referred to this as typical British snobbery. I have to say, I agree with him. I do, because I remember it at the time and it was shocking. John Wedger also claimed that there was an attempt made by the British police to take over the investigation because of the massive and hysterical outcry in the UK. However, it should be remembered that the Portuguese police work under Napoleonic law, whereas the British police work under common law, and that the British police have no jurisdiction in Portugal. And so this led into us, what were the British police doing in Portugal? Because the British police did not want their assistance. John Wedger believed that the Portuguese police had the case under wraps, so much so that the guy heading up the Portuguese investigation had written a book, and so in response, Kate McCann went out of her way to destroy his credibility, and in the end, he won a libel case. John Wedger also questioned why the McCanns had not been charged with child abandonment. He also mentioned that in British law, an offence committed overseas is an offence at home as well if you are a British subject and the offence committed is arrestable. A sniffer dog, as we heard, was also brought in, and it was the leading sniffer dog in the world, and the dog picked up a scent of a dead body from the car that the McCanns had hired after the Madeleine disappearance. Kate sought to discredit the evidence that the sniffer dog had provided, and this meant that the evidence could not be used. John Wedger drew reference to a YouTube documentary called Embedded Confessions by Peter Hyatt, who, after looking into the case, came to the same conclusion as John Wedger, that Madeleine had possibly died as a result of an accident, but he also did not rule out sexual abuse as well. So, yes, very worthwhile looking at that video, I have to say. So let's get to my thoughts about this. Now, my thoughts on this case, I have to say this has confused me, disturbed me, and frustrated me incredibly, and there is so much irrelevant nonsense which seems to surround it that seems to cloud the water, as they say. A number of issues that stand out to me about this case, which I found interesting, were such as the way in which, in my opinion, and from memory of this story and how it unfolded at the time, the xenophobic, ignorant, and racist English press reported on the case. As far as I remember from the start, the English press were calling into question the competency of the Portuguese police authorities to deal with the case. It didn't seem to matter to the likes of the Sun or the Daily Jackboot Mail that this was a potential crime that had happened on Portuguese soil, and so not something the British police had any right to be involved in. The relentless PR and marketing which seemed to surround this case, which lots of people found distasteful and alarming, the fact that the McCanns had allegedly left their two children alone in the apartment that they had rented for the duration of their stay in Portugal while they were out in the evenings having dinner with their friends. I'm not saying that they left them in the apartment the whole time they were there. No, I'm talking about in the evenings when they were having out having dinner or their evening meal with their friends. Despite the following, now this was happening despite all of this happening. A childminding service was available for them to use, which they decided not to use on the night Madeleine disappeared, whilst they were having dinners in the tapas restaurant with a group of friends that they had travelled to Portugal with. The fact that between January and May 2007, there had been a fourfold increase in burglaries in the area, including two in the McCann's block in the 17 days before the disappearance, during which burglars had entered through windows. These facts are further compounded by the fact that the apartment was left unlocked so that the McCanns could easily check on their children at regular intervals. The way that the British media turned on the McCanns for seeming relentless PR and marketing that they were using, allegedly to keep the case in the forefront of people's minds. I have to say that I understand why they did this, because they were obviously an extremely well-connected couple and had access to an extremely wide range of resources. And I would also like to say that if I was in the position where I'd lost my child, I would do anything to find my child, no matter what it took. So I completely understand why they would have done it. Unfortunately, I think they lost a lot of public support with this, and all this PR and marketing stuff, and the way they presented themselves in front of the cameras. Many people have said that they appeared cold and detached. I also found the sniffer dogs Eddie and Keeler, who were the creme de la creme of sniffer dogs and were widely respected all around the world, and the evidence that they provided highly interesting. I also found that the claims that the McCanns called into question the evidence that the dogs had provided, so much so the evidence that the dogs had provided was not able to be used, extremely interesting and disturbing. This included the evidence that the dogs had found in the car, which the McCanns had hired shortly after the Madeleine had disappeared. The Portuguese police from the beginning were very suspicious of the McCanns, and seemingly they believed that Madeleine had died inside the apartment that they had rented. So in closing, I'm extremely confused about this case. On one hand, I find it difficult to believe that two practicing doctors who have to take an oath that they will do everything they possibly can to protect human life would then either murder their baby daughter in cold blood, or on the other hand, I find it unbelievable they would be happy to leave their three small children alone in their apartment in the way that they did. I just find it unbelievable. But if I had to come down on one side or the other, I would probably err on the side of the fact that Madeleine had died in the apartment in an accident, and then the McCanns panicked and made a lot of very bad decisions and took a lot of very bad advice and tried to cover it up. So, finally, please make sure you go and subscribe to the Diesel Arsenal YouTube channel. The guy's an absolute legend, in my opinion. He talks about Arsenal, life in general. He talks about TV and films and all sorts of different things. Honestly, the list goes on, as well as having me come on his channel and talking about things to do with the paranormal, the unexplained, and conspiracy theories. So go and check him out. He guy is unbelievable and he's very, very entertaining. You will not be disappointed, I can assure you. Also, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, Unveiling Realities. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on X, and on Facebook. And whenever I do one of these shows on Diesel's channel, I always post stuff up on the channel to give you some more background or more information about the subject I'm going to be talking about. You will find 2 videos on there currently about the Madeleine McCann case. Previous to that, I posted stuff up about the stuff that was going through the US Congress about UFOs stroke UAPs, which is still rumbling on, by the way. So, yeah, go and check that out. Next time I come on here, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I had a brief discussion with Diesel about it before I came on air. But I've got a couple of ideas, one in particular that I'm quite keen to do, but we'll see. So anyway, this is what we talked about this evening. We talked about who the McCann family were. We talked about the events leading up to the 3rd of May 2007, the early days of the investigation, the McCanns and the media and PR that surrounded them, the first Portuguese inquiry, the British sniffer dogs arrive, Keela and Eddie and the British DNA analysis, Gonçalo Amoral's removal and the Portuguese case closed, Madeleine's fund, private investigators and further police inquiries, the McCanns and the tabloids and social media and libel actions, other theories, and last but not least, my thoughts on the case. So that's it, guys. All that's left for me to say is, look, thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the show. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies, as I always say on these shows, and stay curious. Anyway, let's just finally go through the final chats. Darren says, normally British Old Bill will offer assistance, but on this occasion they have set up a squad. Why? And Darren goes on to say, providing a couple of officers, not an inquiry team. Darren says the media will sound savage wherever they can. The McCanns, the police, anyone, they follow it all. Maddie could have died the day before in an accident and they could have covered it up the next day. Darren says there was a suspicious death 1 year ago. Young lad found at the bottom of a hotel. It's believed he was chased. Cameron was involved, but no inquiry team was set up for that. Nice one, Warren. Good show. Thank you, Darren. And thanks everyone who's watched. Please don't forget to put a like on the video. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to Diesel's channel. And thanks ever so much for watching. I really, really hope you've enjoyed it. And have a great rest of your evening. And take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. And God bless. Take care of yourselves. Please remember to keep your eyes on the skies and stay curious. And also remember to take care of all your friends, your loved ones, and family and friends. And remember to share some love and kindness around the world. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.